Siliva, Caroline put in her
apologies of Q&A, and then we'll wrap it up and we'll let you go back and enjoy your dinner tonight. So please also note that we'll be putting in the chat a link to some slides for you, and also we will put an evaluation of tonight's session. We'll put a link in the chat for tonight. So tonight's session will be facilitated by 3 facilitators. We've got our amazing ECE specialist, Lealofi Cooper, and Inano Bailey. And tonight is really about the voices of our learners, of our Pacific learners in our context. Now, it's important for us to be clear about why is this important. First, our mahi or our work as educators is very much centered around the child, and in our cases, the child, parents, family, and whānau. Secondly, the voices of our learners can help us, educators, improve teaching and learning. It can also help center and school practices. And thirdly, understanding our learners can help us support them around their engagement and their ownership of their learning. The whakatauki ko te tamaiti te pūtake o te kaupapa, the child is the heart of the matter, captures the essence of student voice. And we hope that tonight's presentation will share some strategies, but also allow all of us an opportunity to hear and critically reflect on the voices of our learners. So I will now forward it to Lealofi and Inano. After.
Maloko. And so on that note, further to what's already been shared, the aim of tonight, also from an early childhood perspective, is to establish shared understanding of reo ngā tamariki api'i, children's voices from an early childhood perspective. Just to also probably highlight some reflective questions of our Pacific learners and the role of the teacher or the kaiako. Another aim is to just gain some further insights, a little, window opportunity of other ideas of ways of thinking or ways of doing things within our practice regarding the importance of reo, and then where to next. So ways of implementing reo ngā tamariki and getting excited, hopefully getting excited about teaching and the things that we do with our tamariki. So at this point in time, I'm now going to hand it over to our amazing Inano Bailey. Over to you, Inano.
Kia ora nā tātou katoa. Thank you for joining in today, this evening, sorry. We're just going to watch this short little video, which was provided to us by a wonderful team from Mayfield Kindergarten. So I'll just play that now. Hear it?
It's hard here in New Zealand to pick up the Tongan language, but I'm so excited because the kindergarten can tell the story in Tonga for them. The important thing I want my son to be proud of himself. He is a Tongan. He comes from Tongan, even though he grew up in New Zealand, but no one can take away his Tonga from him.
We started the Tapasā PD this year because our tamariki predominantly Pasifika here, that we needed to improve. Not sure what, but we did do language weeks. We do have good engagement with whānau. The environment, I think, showcases everything Pasifika, but I thought we could do more.
Mayfield Kindergarten, they had reached out to Toi Soia ki Tapasā. They had acknowledged that
their teaching team were all non-Pacific, but the percentage of Pacific children in their kindergarten was nearly 100%. They were just wanting to find more ways to incorporate things into the curriculum that were Pacific, where they could engage with parents as well as children.
She learns a lot from them. Every day I come to Chopra, and when she comes to back home, they still teaching the Samoan language, Samoan stories. Some stories we don't know, but she knows from the teachers here. We're looking forward to a smart girl in the future.
It's really important to me that she learn the Samoan language because that is her heritage. That's her roots where she come from, and I want her to know and learn the value of her culture and where she come from.
I'm so grateful that my kids learn the Tongan language here in this country. We sometimes go back to the island, and most of our parents, our grandparents, they can't really speak English fluent. So they're so grateful to talk in Tongan to our whānau from here.
The key highlight working with Mayfield Kindergarten is probably the growth of the Indigenous knowledge that came from parents and the power shifts that happened between parents and teachers, where teachers became the learners and the parents became the teachers, and then just identifying that it's okay as teachers that we don't know everything and that it's okay for us to ask for help, especially from our Pacific parents.
As the head teacher of Mayfield Kindergarten, I feel more confident that my team have more Pasifika knowledge. I feel more confident that we are ensuring good outcome for children. I feel confident that we're getting really good engagement with whānau because they're appreciative, and we can engage whānau because we talk about what the stories are, and if they have stories and they're more engaged with us. Everybody's supportive. It's worked really well.
Come find us.
Sorry.
Also processing.
So just following that, the voices of our learners in Te Reo Kukiarani is ngā reo o te ao Tamariki e api no nei I a tātou. Why is this so important for us as teachers? What does capturing children's voice, what does that look like in our setting? So I've put together some questions that you could possibly be thinking about, and just things that we can reflect on, because the importance of it, with active listening, valuing their perspective, children, Tamariki's perspectives, thoughts and their feelings when they're in your space with you. So these are some of the questions that could be you could be thinking about within your practice. And here are some examples, the role of a teacher that you could be doing. Of course, within ECU, we do through observations and documentation, observing children during their play and their interactions, and whether it's documenting through verbal or non-verbal communication and understanding through their interests and needs and their feelings. Also through conversations and storytelling, which we've seen already in the video, and which also encourages them to share their thoughts and stories and listen to them actively and what they're saying. And other ways of we can do is through surveys and feedback from the older children, of course. So question one, why teachers, just in the top there, teachers will ensure every child's voice is heard, actively listening and engaging with their learners through their play. The second one, sorry, I was a bit quick with the mouse. Creating a variety of learning environments that cater to different communication styles, quiet reading, manipulative play, messy play. And just being adaptable with their communication and using multilingual resources. You could be creating visual aids, gestures, and different symbols that are across the different languages that you might be promoting in your setting. Gathering feedback from your early learning, your learners, your tamariki, as well as from kupu tangata and whānau. And also just allowing the conversations with your team, kaiako. The roles of a parent. Just being able to, of course, continue working with the children and hearing their voice, inviting your families and parents to come and participate in different activities, which enriches the learning environment and to amplify their child's voice. And also, finally, fostering strong, trusting relationships between teachers, our beginning teachers, our learners, and to establish clear routines and expectations, I guess, which help the learners to feel a lot more secure, confident when they're expressing themselves. And also that we can celebrate the contribution that whether it's small or big, to enforce the values of each of our child's voice. Here are some examples that Mayfield were able to capture the storytelling with their tamariki, and post them on Story Park for their families to be able to read and just contribute with the discussion. Yeah, so it was really nice to be able to have the children go through and learn the stories, and then have the opportunity to retell them themselves and just to share their thoughts, and of course with the support from teachers telling them the story and then allowing the children to retell it in their way, or also as the teacher has shared with them. So is there anyone from Mayfield that would like to share? Maybe you could put it in the chat.
Okay. Kia ora, Nā. Thank you for that, Inano. Wonderful work. While we are waiting to hear back from anybody from Mayfield, feel free to jump in and add to what's just been shared, or you can, as Inano's already mentioned, please feel free to write any further comments in the chat. So just to further to what Inano has already shared, once again, no mai haere mai everyone, really wonderful that you could join us. But three key things that I thought I would touch upon in terms of reo ngā tamariki, the voices of our young children, is one, empowering tamariki through meaningful participation. None of this, so superficial sort of stuff, but giving them meaningful things to do that they will help them to make sense of the world, help them to find their place of belonging, help them to understand, is that why? How, the cause and effect of if I switch this light on. Not that we're going to go out there and encourage children to switch lights off and on. Fostering a culturally responsive learning environment, and 3, building strong relationships through active listening and engagement, taking the time to sit alongside our tamariki, making the eye contact when appropriate, and just not saying anything sometimes when appropriate. Yep, and now I will hand it back over to you, Inano. or shall I continue?
Yeah, no, I can take this. So creating opportunities for our tamariki to be active and actively engaged in their learning environments is obviously really important, and it's a way of respecting their cultural backgrounds and values and the individual needs of where they're at. Just in this picture here, you can see the tamariki. They're actually trying to sew like a piece of
Tīwara.
cloth, which is
Mm.
to create a piece of to go onto a tīwaiwai. So we're being able to celebrate and participate in these kind of activities, encourage tamariki to share stories from their own culture and heritage, or to listen to stories that, you know, maybe their peers will be sharing from their family, their ainga and kainga. The cultural spiritual celebrations help decorate the learning space with symbols and artifacts that are related from their cultural backgrounds, that they've from festivals or events, provides the explanation in a way that is understandable for young children, because it's normal to see those things in their homes, and it's good to be able to provide them that for them in their environment. And just inviting tamariki to provide their own understanding of their local events, or to share what they've been doing from home.
Thank you. And I just want to, I just want to mention that I would like to commend all you amazing educators, kaiako, teachers, for the work that is already happening in your services and in your respective konga and your respective ECE centres. I guess these are just little reminders of, you know, the sorts of things that we can continue doing. So when we're talking about fostering, when we talking about fostering a culturally responsive learning environment, what that looks like in an early childhood centre or from a Pacific lens is embracing a holistic view of children, embracing, understanding, acknowledging that our tamariki have already come with beliefs, spiritual beliefs. They already come with their they're not empty vakas, they're not empty vessels. They really come with the goodness from home, filled with ways of thinking, ways of doing things. That the tamariki in our services to foster the reflect the that respect and understanding of culturally different beliefs. And for some of our tamariki, it's one thing to see what's in front of them, but it's another thing to believe that even though they don't see some of the things that are in front of them, some of the people that have just passed on, they still believe. There's a belief that they exist. And so when our families, our children go and visit loved ones, they're still very much part of their day-to-day way of life. And so bringing that understanding into our teaching and learning, into our into our services, into the children's, you know, we call it kindy land, ECE land, whatever land we refer to it in our centres, making it as part of the children's daily ways of being as much as possible, because in doing so we're promoting their emotional well-being, we're promoting their connectedness, we're promoting that they are worthy of being in that centre, and we equally important, we're promoting their spiritual well-being. And so if that's not a way of successfully engaging them in learning, then perhaps we need to re-look, rethink. Yeah. Back over to you, please. Inano.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and then, okay, so, and the final thing from our early child perspective is building strong relationship through active listening and engagement. They say for to have a conversation, an effective conversation with children, it should take 30 seconds or 3 responses. You go, I go, you go, I go, to have an effective, impactful conversation with our tamariki. Also, those one-to-one conversations mean the world to our tamariki. And for many of our Pacific families, we come from huge Pacific families, and there's always lots of things happening, going on in our families. And sometimes through the busyness, the voices get, um, missed out. They don't get missed out deliberately, but in the busyness of life in the home. So, however, when we provide the opportunities for those one-to-one conversations, when we are seeing our tamariki sitting alone instead of just settling into the day. It's a really good time, really good opportunity to sit alongside things that are already happening that you're already doing, to have those conversations and to build those strong relationships. Also, in saying that, just being mindful that some children come from very traditional homes where the children are seen but not heard. Children go and play in the background while the elders or the adults have the conversations or have the talanoa in the lounge. And so there might be instances where children might not make eye contact, or they might not feel comfortable or confident, or to have the one-to-one conversation or make the eye contact. But keep at it, sit alongside. A lot of the non-verbal gestures, the smile, and just being present is equally as important.
I just wanted to add to that, with the conversations, our tamariki have established trusting relationships with our puapi, which is our teachers. So these conversations are dear to them. Whatever it could be, they went to church and they participated in White Sunday. That might be a conversation that you may not have a lot of know a lot about, but that could be something that you could investigate and explore a little bit more and share. Allow that child, if they're ready and want to share their experiences at mat time or in their group discussions. These are really important for our babies.
Cool, thank you. And so this brings us to our final slide before we hand it back over to our chief. And so the final slide, again, is just a quick little snippet of the importance of our children's voices and what they're hearing, the tone that they're hearing, the gestures that they are feeling, and how they want us to behave. When we connect with our children's voices, when we actually actively listen to what they're saying, as the heart of the matter, we're able to function as, where things are able to flow the way it's supposed to within early childhood education. So if we could please play the video. Some of you might have seen this before, but
talk nicely, korero pai kia hau. I like it when they speak softly. I don't like people to scream. And if you don't speak to them nice, they won't speak to you nice. Whiringa hau te reo mahiki. Don't go too angry. Speak nice. Being friendly. Respect other people. I like the happy voice. Tell you the right things to do and not the wrong things. Well, they've shown me what to do because I sometimes can't see what they're doing. Tell me what I should be doing. Help me do it if I'm feeling cross. They should learn me to. And I'm 4 years old now. They give me choices that are right and then I choose one. Like going shopping and giving some things that I really like. They take me somewhere to play and take me somewhere with my friends. Give them a toy. Watch television. Give them a new pet. We go to the beach after when we tidy up the whole house. Give us treats. Tanga mo na hurito. By going to the shop and getting me something. I like playing dominoes with my nana. We go out together and we talk to each other. Play in the park. Give me a surprise, maybe. Come and kiss me, bed and give me some cuddle. Wave me one and I can sing for a bit. Cuddle me. When my sister cuts, I can give her a hug and a kiss. Say, what's happening? Just sit there and listen. In our house, how old you are, how many minutes you have to stay in your bedroom, so I have to stay in my bedroom for like 7 minutes. Just keep holding them, like carrying a baby. They just remind me of things that I've been through, like happy things. I tell them the problem and then they'd sort it out with me. She says it's okay when you're angry, just let it all out. I feel my Mickey. When I'm feeling cross, Mum, don't talk to me really loud. Ask me what's been going on. Put me on my bed and until I stopped crying. Massage? Give me apple, give me a glass of water, makes me breathe. They sing to me.
So there we go. Children are the heart of the meta. Over to you, please. Siliva? Malo.
Great. Thank you, Inano and Lealofi. Yes, it is right. The children are absolutely the heart of the matter. And for us, as educators in the schooling sector, we have to actually make a conscious effort to not only collect and gather the voices of our Tamariki, but for me the most important thing is what we actually do with that voice. So in tonight session, I aim to share with you some of the Pacific learners' voices from 2 secondary schools, and I would like you to actually think critically about what these students are saying, and then consider what are the implications for you in your role, whether you're a school leader, a senior or middle leader, or teacher. I'm confident that the voices of our Tamariki that you will see in the next 15 minutes or so will have some important implications for you in your roles in schools. Now, the data that where I'm taking this information from is 2 secondary schools. School number 1 is a multicultural school with over 2,000 students. The Pacific population is about 20%. And we've had 2 Talanoa sessions. The first group consisting of a big group of 19 students. The second group was a little bit smaller because it was taken last week during tournament week. So quite a few members of the original 19 were away. In the second school, again, another multicultural group school, around 400 students, Pacific population about 20% as well. And we've had a sample of 8 students in the first Talanoa and about 22 in the second one. We've already talked about this idea, is that it's important that we actually hear the voices of the students. So the 2 schools that I've just mentioned, they wanted to find out how their students are feeling. Secondly, they want, they're focusing on improving teaching and learning and school systems for their Pacific learners. And the ultimate goal for those 2 schools was improving the engagement of their students and the overall academic achievement. So in the next few slides, you'll hear some questions, and I've selected some answers from the students. For the question was, what do you enjoy most at your school? So here are a sample of responses from school number 1. They said everything. The students appreciate the multiple opportunities that they feel that they're getting from their school, friendship, the variety of sports team, and the different cultures involved. And number 6, I thought that was really interesting. You know, the student said our teachers, and then that was followed by some, you know, with clearly. So this student has a good feel for the types of teaching and learning that's happening at their school. For school number 2, they talked about the closeness. The girls talked about the closeness, sort of sisterhood bond, and some alignments between their school values and maybe their home values. They thought having a reasonably small school where they're able to know everybody by name was a big advantage for them. They also felt like there was something at their kura for Pacific, for them. And some of the cultural groups included, for instance, Indian, Samoan, Tongan, Japanese, etc. So that cultural aspect of the school, the students looked at that as really important for them. We also ask about their dreams and aspirations when they leave college. So here are some of the responses from first school with 19. So you can see that these kids have got ideas, some ideas of, you know, the next part of their journey, all the way from, you know, physiotherapists, the traditional lawyers, of course, and you'll see in there the health sciences, the engineers, the builders. I think we've got some things to do. I can see a couple of teachers in there, so maybe we need to do a little bit better, maybe encourage our kids, our learners towards teaching. And the same thing with school number 2 as well. So the overall message that you can get from here is that you can see that the students, yes, some may not be absolutely clear about what they want to do, but they are, you know, they have high aspirations for themselves. And yes, some of these aspirations may have been discussed with parents and families, and that's a great thing as well. So schools need to find out about these dreams and aspirations, and then work with the learners and the families to think about how to actually support them. One of my favorites in school number 2 was owning a bookstore. I thought that was a really interesting one. So from here, you can summarize from here that that our children, that our students have very high dreams and aspirations, and it is our job as educators to find ways of supporting them, of nurturing these dreams, and working with our families along their journey. So we asked how the students were feeling, and I have selected 3 from a variety of responses for us to reflect on. Stressed. I think that picture there on the left-hand side of a student either falling asleep and holding up the card help reflects very much a large feeling that I got from our students. They feel stressed. For those of you in the secondary sector, you'll probably understand what it's like. For some of us tonight who may not be clear about that. Now, at secondary school level, especially at years 11, 12 and 13s with NCEA, if students have 5, 6, and some even 7 subjects, and then you multiply each of subjects by 4, so that's how many pieces of work that they're expected to complete during the year. So there'll be a balance between internals, which are work that they are expected to complete during the year, and maybe some exams at the end of the year. So these students, we're talking about the amount of stuff, the amount of work that they're doing. And they communicated the sense that individual teachers did not appreciate what they were actually feeling, because individual teachers, they tend to think about their own subject. They tend to think about, okay, here are my 4 assignments, pieces of work that I'm doing for the whole year. Individual teachers may not be necessarily reflecting on 5, 6, or 7 subjects that each student is actually completing. So definitely these students feel really stressed, and they were asking, and wanting to actually find some ways of managing workloads and things like that. The second highlight for us was that many of our students are not confident in asking questions. And this was a common message, not only with these 2 schools, but we've also gathered some voices in other regions as well. And this was something that's really stuck with me. Firstly, our students are not asking questions during classes. They are also not seeking help outside of classes. So, of course, I'm speaking generally. That does not mean that all of our students are not asking questions. Yes, I did find some students within the groups who are asking questions, but they're very much in a minority. So an implication for us as educators is to really maybe explore other ways of checking to ensure that our students are understanding and are getting the information that that it's intended for them. The second one, and point around feeling undervalued or used by their schools, this is very much linked to Polyfest and Pacific celebrations. The kids felt that the schools didn't show or any recognition of their involvement in activities such as Polyfest. So for those of you who are familiar with, for instance, in Auckland, Polyfest seems to take out term one. This is a massive event that engages many of our students. So students felt that schools were almost sort of using them, you know, like if they do well in Polyfest, is great promotion for the school. You know, in the name of the school wins the trophy and things like that. They win speeches and things like that. So the kids feeling, yes, we are promoting the school, but the school's not actually showing any, you know, showing any recognition for what we're doing outside, you know, outside of the classroom. So that is one of the biggest messages actually gathered from these students. And these are not just Auckland students. These are students right across the motu. Here is a comment that captures that. And I'll read it for anyone else who may not be able to see their computer or device. I feel like after Polyfest, I was behind in all my classes. And the teachers wouldn't come to me and ask if I needed help. Sometimes I wouldn't be in class because, well, not working. But when I come back to class the next day, they just act like I knew everything. And when I ask around this big group, 13 out of 19 students found themselves in a similar situation. The situation being behind in schoolwork, and they didn't feel like there was any leeway in terms of flexibility from their teachers or their schools around, you know, them being behind with work. Here are some quotes from 3 students in school number 2. Something that I struggle with is asking for help. I don't know if that's just like high school, but I have struggled with it since I was a little kid. Another student about the same issue, about asking questions. Sometimes I don't have the confidence to ask questions. Student number 3 says, to be honest, I am sometimes afraid to ask questions when I'm in class because I'm year 13 now and I feel like the teachers expect more, like they think we already know the answer. If you're reflecting on some of these voices, I think considering another way of checking that students are getting the content and understanding what is being communicated to them is something that teachers will need to explore. Student voice can also inform teacher practice. And here's an interesting case just over a week ago, and I'll read it. My teacher tells me not to write down anything until he stops talking. I zone out easily and I find it hard to hear anything. I start writing because that is how I learn. But then he says that is disrespectful, and he doesn't want to understand that. Then he says, go to the dean or the library if you don't want to learn. But I want to learn. He's not seeing my point of view. This clearly shows and I will use the term problem of practice. Here's an interesting teacher who clearly has set views about how students should learn. Sadly, the student in this case also has a particular perspective or view of how he or she learns best. And it doesn't seem to be a shared understanding. And clearly the teacher has doesn't understanding of how this particular student learns best. So there are serious implications in terms of supporting this teacher. Here are a couple of questions for you to consider. If this was a teacher in your department, if this was a teacher at your kura, how would you support this teacher to better understand the needs of our Pacific learners? And how would you support them to reflect and critically evaluate their practice? Second reflective question, what support can you provide to this child? Because clearly the impression I received from this student is that she did not enjoy going to this particular class. And that is not a positive experience for any of our children, for any student, any of our children, have feeling like that as they move around in different classes. So I also asked the students to give me an advice or some advice for their teachers. So, and I've selected 5 of those so these are the voices of the students. The first advice was they wanted more one-on-one interactions. And one-on-one interactions could be a teacher-student, or some students also pointed out, actually, student to student sometimes can be better than teacher-student, because students tend to use their own language to explain things. So many of our students talked about the need for one-to-one interactions. One-on-one interactions also facilitate checking students' understanding of content. Those of you secondary teachers joining us tonight, number 2, you would think, we've had NCEA since 2002. This was clearly one of the challenges, and clearly many of our kids actually saying, clarity around the criteria for achieved merit and excellence. And also give that to us in a language that's easy to understand. Number 3, the idea of breaking down the learning into small bites, into meaningful chunks. This is not new. This is not rocket science. This is something that has been communicated in many research, not just international, but also research into effective practice within New Zealand. Breaking down the learning into meaningful bites with explicit teaching can support our Pacific learners. Number 4, making learning interactive and relevant. This was another big one as well from students, and we all know that the assessment tends to drive learning at secondary schools especially. But I think teachers need to think that learning, yes, but learning should be fun. Learning needs to be fun. Learning needs to be interactive and relevant, to the context, relevant to the lives of the learners. And number 5, delivering content at a much slower pace. So those are some of the advices that the students, there's a lot more, but I've selected those 5 for tonight. All right, so now before I go on, I'll just come back to Alosina and just check if we have any questions, please, from the audience.
No, not at the moment. I just answered some questions, but feel free to put your answers in from Siliva's reflections.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Any ideas about that teacher, especially that teacher with a very clear idea about what learning should be? I wasn't going to mention that particular subject area, but I think I'm now going to mention it. It's mathematics, and that's not new in that for that particular learning area. It's a well-known issue, and we hope that schools, will utilize the voices of our learners to really understand some of these problems of practice, because these problems of practice can be solved, but we cannot solve them by, using our own teacher assumptions about teaching and learning. We have to actually hear the voices of our tamariki to better understand what is actually happening. Okay, now, before I stop sharing, I might as well do the final two slides. If you've enjoyed tonight, please don't forget to tune in for Navigate 8, which will take place in October 16, and we will look at how to actually maintain a focus on Pasifika success. And of course, our very final and last Navigate for the year. It's a great celebration, and we've called it Sharing is Caring, and we will have some ECEs and schools sharing their journey with us. So that is what we have planned for tonight. As you know, like all Pacific things, we're always on time, and great to see some members of our advisory team on tonight, Fire Jackie, and all of you tuning in. So are there any particular questions? If you haven't had time to put your questions in the chat, we've got maybe 3 minutes for any live questions now before we wrap up for tonight. Yes, you've been very respectful tonight. It's very good, either that or you're very hungry tonight. Okay. Right. Okay. So we will from here we will send you the recording for those of you, the recording of tonight's session, and some notes as well, some of the slides from tonight's presentation. Great to see Malolele, to our former program manager, Dagra on board. Thank you. And to all of you tonight, thank you so much for, tuning in from across the motu. We've enjoyed having a talanoa with you tonight. We sincerely hope that there was something in there. We started with the whakatoki, te tamaiti, tamariki, te pūtake, o te kaupapa, that our kids, our children, is the heart of the matter. For us as educators, that is the purpose for our mahi. And we need to actually hear the voices of our children and our learners. We need to understand the voices of our learners. And then as educators, we need to action. We need to translate into actions what they are saying. If we do not do that final bit, then we are at a significant risk of actually continuing and simply rolling along with delivering material, with delivering content that may not be relevant, that may not be useful, that may not have an impact on our learners and our families and whānau. It is only when we critically reflect on the impact of our actions, that is what effective teaching and learning is about. So our ability to critically reflect on the impact of our actions, in this case on our Pasifika, mokopuna, tamariki, families and whānau. Thank you very much. I will close us off with a karakia tonight, and then we'll let you go back and enjoy the rest of your dinner. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa. Te ata whai o tō tātou ariki e ukurati. Me te whiwhinga tāhitanga. Ki te wairua tapu. Ake, ake, ake. Āmene.
Āmene.
Pō mari e.
O Marie.
Pō Marie. Ka kite everybody.